Today is July 9th, 2017, and this is your Lake of the Ozarks fishing report for the Upper Osage area of Lake of the Ozarks. And this report is courtesy of Joe's Lake Ozark Guide Service. Water conditions here in the Upper Lake area. The water levels at around 659 or just above that. People at Bagnell Dam like to keep the lake around 659 in the summer. So that's kind of where it's at, where it's going to stay. Seems like during the week they generate current, they pull water through the dam, and then on weekends they kind of shut it off. So the lake has a tendency to maybe come up a little bit on the weekends. So that's the water level. Water temperature is around 80 degrees, low to mid 80s, I would say, as an average. And the water color still a little bit dirty out on the main lake where the main Osage is, because there's still water being pulled in through Truman Dam. And as you get back into the coves and the creeks, then the water clears up a little bit. Okay, the bass are truly in a summer pattern right now. So I'm going to talk about the patterns that are going to work right now, and then kind of what's coming ahead as we move off into August and so forth. Right now, the best bite for the biggest concentrations of larger fish is to fish deep. 25, 30 foot deep even in some spots. Even in the Upper Lake area, you get some of these ledges that drop off in the main river channel, and they'll drop off into 25 and 30 feet. So you want to fish on those ledges or around or close to those ledges. And I'm talking about ledges that where a point and the main river runs right up against the point, and then that point drops off into the main river. That's kind of what you're looking for. When there's current, those fish are going to be more active. They're going to group up more. They'll have a tendency to follow the shed down to the bottom and kind of hang out on just the very lip of those ledges. When they quit running current, they have a tendency to spread out a little bit. They'll either move up a little bit shallower and fan out into some brush piles, or they'll just have a tendency just to kind of back off and just suspend a little bit, and that's when they're a little bit tougher to catch. So here are the lures that we're going to use to catch those fish out on the main lake on these deep ledges where it falls off in the main river channel. One of the first things we'll do is we'll throw a deep diving crankbait. Whatever choice of deep diving crankbait you choose is fine. This is a DD22. Yesterday I was throwing crankbaits. I think it was a Strike King 6XD, getting down plenty deep, 15 to 18 feet. But you can catch some fish on the deep diving crankbait. You can catch fish out on those deep ledges, also on swim bait. It's a lot slower fishing. It's really a good choice when those fish have kind of pulled up off the bottom. They're kind of suspended. But you can also throw that swim bait out, let it go to the bottom, crank it just a few turns, which will pull it up off the bottom, and then let it fall, and then it'll just kind of flutter, and that tail will kick as it falls back down to the bottom. Usually your bites on that swim bait are going to be as that bait's falling. But you know, every now and then you'll catch those fish as it's just coming horizontal too. So swim bait's another choice you can use on those main lake points where it drops off into the ledges. Now you can use your bottom baits, bottom bouncing baits. Big football jigs are really great choices for these. They're called football jigs because the head of the jig is not round, it's oblong like the shape of a football. That's what it is. These are great. 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce jigs are best for this because you're going to be fishing down pretty deep. You can also use a wobble head jig, which is kind of like a football head jig, but this jig head actually wobbles. The hook's going to swing back and forth, and really easy to fish. You just throw it out there, let it go to the bottom, and just slowly crank it while it bounces on the bottom. It vibrates and rattles that hook back and forth, and whatever plastic you decide to put on the back of that, whether it's a 10-inch power worm, any kind of worm you want to put on there, creature baits, brush hogs, beaver style baits, anything that has a lot of action you want to put on the back of those, and those are also good choices. Again, you want to go as heavy as you can get, 1/2 ounce to 3/4 to 1 ounce if you can find those. And then the Zoom makes a great big worm as well, but this is actually a Berkeley power worm, is what this is, and this is the 10-inch power worm. These are also great choices to do on the ledge. Now, one of the questions I get asked quite a bit is what size hook do you use in your power worms, and I want to show you. I use a 5/0 on the 10-inch power worm. I use a 3 and 4/0 on the smaller 7-inch power worm. I use the 10-inch power worm 90% of the time. You'd be amazed how many 12-inch fish you'll catch on a 10-inch worm. I just feel like if I can catch small fish on this worm and get bites, I'm going to stay with the big worm because it'll also get me some bigger fish. But I use a big 5/0 because, see, I've got a lot of space between the worm and the back of the hook, and that's the key on these hooks, how big you want to use. You want to use a big hook so that when the fish bites this bait, it'll smash that plastic down and hook himself. Whereas if you had a smaller hook, you're not going to have as easy a choice to do that. So that's why you want to use that bait right there. Now, also out on the main lake, you can fish the docks. The fish are suspended up underneath the docks. Early and late in the day, you can use topwater baits. This is a whopper plopper. This is a smaller version. Buzz baits are great choices. This is a head knocker buzz bait. Again, on the head knocker, it's a great choice because you got a flat head right there, and the flat head keeps that bait up on surface so you can crank it a lot slower. And anytime you use a buzz bait, always use a trailer hook. You'll hit those, you'll catch those short strikers. Another bait you can use is a Zoom fluke. I put just a standard 5/0 worm hook on this, throw it out there and twitch it and jerk it, and it's great as a topwater bait as well. It'll have a lot of erratic action. Fish will come out off those dock corners, and you'll have some explosive action. It's also a lot of fun fishing to throw the fluke on these docks out on the main lake. Bluff ends is another choice out on the main lake you can do. You can throw those heavy jigs and bounce them down the shells and the stairs of those bluff ends. You can also use your crankbaits. In early low light conditions, you can also use the topwater baits there as well. Another pattern that you can catch fish on right now is you can go pitch and flip docks. If you've got shad up on the surface in the area, especially in the back of the creeks, then you can go to the back of the creeks and flip and pitch some of these docks. Throw any kind of, or at any kind of shallow cover, logs, stick-ups, brush piles that are sticking out of the water in the back of the creeks. I don't have one with me here, but a square bill crankbait is great for those. I like to just throw a pitch a jig along those. Those are good choices. 10-inch worm's another good choice. This is an excellent choice here. This is a hook. It's made by Crocagator now, but it was made by Wayne down at Fitz Fishing. It's a jig head, and I've got a creature bait on here. But what's neat about this little jig head is it's got a wire keeper on the back. So as I push my bait up on there, I can push that wire keeper down, and that wire keeper is actually going to grab and hook around that hook shaft so that my plastic won't pull off. So when I go to pitch this bait in these docks, I don't have to worry about the plastic sliding down, covering up the hook point, and it's hard to set the hook. This bait will stay true up on the hook shaft, and this is a really good bait to pitch around docks because these beavers have a tendency to glide and slide, and you can swim them right up underneath the dock foams a lot easier. Another bait I have a lot of success around the docks, out on the main lake and on the bluff end docks, and also back the creek docks, is a small shallow running crankbait called a Man's 1-. They make a real small version. This is called the mid 1-. Has a real small bill, goes about a foot deep, which is the perfect depth because these dock foams, they sit down in the water about 6 to 8 inches, and this thing will go about a foot. So this will go right there. It'll be right in your eyes when it comes by them, and you want to cast it, crank it along the side of the dock, and twitch it. When you get it at the end of the dock, give it a little quick twitch. That's usually where the fish are. They're hanging on these dock corners. But this is another great bait. It's just really good for fun fishing, catching a lot of fish. Every now and then you'll catch a pretty good one off this as well. So that's kind of what's going on here at Lake of the Ozarks. You know, which pattern do you use right now? Because the water's warming up this weekend with very little wind. Most of the fish I caught, better fish I caught, were out deep. If you get some rainy, cloudy days, overcast situations, low light conditions, you can go to the back of these creeks and catch some fish. They seem to be a little bit easier to catch. When we do start getting shad on top of the surface and back of these creeks, that's when you can go to the back of these creeks and on some of these flats and also catch some of these fish. The back of the creek bite is not that good right now compared to what we're having out on the main lake. You can catch some fish there, but the bigger fish seems to be out on those deep ledges out on the main lake. So that's kind of what's going on at Lake of the Ozarks right now. So good luck in your fishing. Be safe. Always wear your life jacket. And thanks for watching.